will be offered by Deborah Jamerson, pastor of Glenwood Park United Methodist Church. Deborah, are you here? I don't think I saw you. I'm going to ask Ms. Shirley Murdoch to come forward and offer the, I'm sorry, you here? I'm sorry. Saved by the bell, Shirley. Thank you. If you please come forward, and if you would please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the pledge of allegiance. Just go around the room, yeah. And you can just pull that microphone down. There you go.
Thank you. Most gracious, holy God, we are so grateful and thankful for all of you, all of the members and all of the people here tonight. We thank you, God, and we give you the honor. Father God, as we come forward tonight, we're asking, God, that you give us the strength, Lord, that you give us the courage and the confidence to move in behalf of the people and the citizens of Independence. Father, we ask that you touch each and every council, the mayor, and everyone involved, dear God. Lord, that you give them the understanding, God, the gentleness, and let them allow them harmony and peace as they work together, even in honest disagreements. Lord, we ask that you touch each and every one. Father, also we ask as the agenda, God, that is put forth today, that, Lord, you give us the understanding and the clarity, Father, to move into behalf of the people and all of the people that are involved. Lord, let us do it at the benefit of pleasing you, Lord, and giving honor to each and every one. Lord, we ask that you touch and bless everyone in this house today. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There you go. Madam City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Council members Huff.
Here.
Perkins.
Here.
Doherty.
Here.
Lucy.
Here.
Robertson.
Here.
Thank you.
Here.
Mayor Ware.
Here. We have two proclamations this evening. The first one is for Small Business Saturday. Whereas the government of Independence, Missouri celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community, according to the United States Small Business Administration, there are currently 30.2 million small businesses in the United States. They represent 99.7% of all businesses with employees in the United States, are responsible for 65.9% of net new jobs created from 2000 to 2017. And whereas small businesses employ 47.5% of the employees in the private sector in the United States, and whereas 90% of consumers in the United States say Small Business Saturday has a positive impact on their community, and whereas 89% of consumers who are aware of Small Business Saturday said the day encourages them to shop small all year long, and whereas 73% of consumers who reportedly shopped small at independently owned retailers and restaurants on Small Business Saturday did so with friends or family, and whereas the most reported reason for consumers aware of the day to shop and dine at small, independently owned businesses was to support their community, 64%. And whereas Independence, Missouri supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our communities, and whereas advocacy groups, as well as public and private organizations across the country have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now, therefore, I, Eileen N. Weir, Mayor of Independence, Missouri, do hereby proclaim November 24th, 2018 as Small Business Saturday and urge the residents of our community and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. And Jerry Krantz is here to accept this proclamation. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Our next proclamation is Fire Department and AMR recognition. Whereas the City of Independence Fire Department trains for many types of emergencies, and on the afternoon of Tuesday, October 2nd, they unfortunately had to put those skills to use. At 2:05 p.m., a call came in regarding a medical emergency in a rural area of Independence in eastern Jackson County. The patient had been injured on a horse farm, suffering severe head trauma. And whereas due to the reported condition and the nature of the patient's injuries, Life Flight was asked to be dispatched for possible response. Pumper 9 arrived on the scene of the horse stable facility and began immediate assessment and treatment. AMR ambulance service was contacted to inform them of the nature of the injuries. IFD with mutual aid assistance shut down 24 Highway to allow access for the helicopter. AMR then arrived on the scene and IFD assisted them with loading into the ambulance to be moved to the helicopter access point. The patient was then loaded into an awaiting helicopter located on 24 Highway and taken to a local hospital. And whereas on the scene and acting on appropriate training and experience were Captain Michael, you didn't tell me there were names in here, Kangliasi, fire equipment operator, Mark Biggs, firefighter, Jason Willis, assistant fire chief, Mike Dittamore, acting battalion chief Jeremy Waters, AMR ambulance crew members, paramedics Ronnie Crowden, Ashley Reinert, and EMTB Christian Biondo. Independence Police Department, Life Flight, Jackson County Sheriff's Department, and Fort Osage Fire District. And whereas on Wednesday, November 7th, the patient reached out to Independence Fire and met with the first responder crews credited with helping save her life. She was in the hospital for just 12 days, surprising her family and doctors with her quick progress. Throughout her recovery, she knew she wanted to reach out to the first responders who helped her. Now, therefore, I, Eileen N. Weir, Mayor of the City of Independence, Missouri, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the City of Independence, Missouri, do hereby recognize and express appreciation to all aforementioned fire department, AMR employees, and mutual aid for committing unselfish acts of bravery and exemplifying the highest standards of public safety on behalf of our community. We have firefighters and our AMR representatives.
Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, this takes us to our consent agenda.
Mayor Weir,
Councilman Van Camp.
I move to approve the reports and recommendations of the city manager.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any items any council member wishes pulled for separate consideration?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember DeLucy.
18808, 18809.
Okay, Madam City Clerk, will you please call the roll on, and save your voice, I'm going to ask for all in favor of the consent agenda minus Resolution 1808 and 1809. Please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Councilmember DeLucy, Resolution 18808.
Yes, this is a resolution asking the city manager to conduct a depreciation study. I would just like a little bit of information, like when was the last one, and what do we hope to find from this, and does it fit into our bigger picture we're getting a rate study in a month or so.
Yes, ma'am. It's been so long since we've had a or a depreciation study that I'm really not in a position to let you know when the last one was. It was a recommendation of part of the 2015 cost of service study that you may commonly remember as the Sovol study. I will try to spare the council and our guest tonight a boring accounting lesson, but presumably what we're looking at doing here, depreciation is, if you think of the value of your car, every year that goes by, that car is worth a little less, and a little less is more miles and wear and tear. We do the same thing as we value our different assets here in the city, and one of our largest single operation, of course, being power and light. You think of all the turbines, all the power lines, all the substations, et cetera, et cetera. So this is a measure of the value of those assets, and it helps give us indication of how much money we need to continue to invest in the infrastructure, when the right timing is to begin to replace infrastructure. But it also does have a bearing on our rate structure, because we begin to value what those assets are and when the right time to invest in those are and whatnot. So it affects the bottom line, it affects the balance sheet. It's a really critical component of what's happening with the current rate study, the Burns and Mac one that we expect here in a couple of weeks as well. So really, it's out of sight, out of mind accounting work, but it's very, very important to the bottom line balance sheet of Independence Power and Light.
And how much will it cost? When will it be done? And where's the money coming from?
Right, so this will be paid for out of Independence Power and Light. Roughly what we're estimating on this one is about a not to exceed amount of $170,000 for this project.
And about how long? Do you have any idea?
Should be no more than about 3 months, Councilwoman, but if that number seems to move, I'll let you know.
Okay, thank you
You
very
will.
much. Madam Mayor, I move approval of, assuming there's no other questions, move approval of 18808.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Doherty,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Robertson,
Yes.
Van Camp,
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes. Councilmember DeLucy, 18809.
Madam Mayor, this 18809 is the resolution directing the city manager to implement a 2% reduction on all utility rates. I was at the PUAB study last Thursday, and I believe what was presented at the PUAB was a little different than what's being presented tonight. And so I would just like the city manager, if he could, briefly tell the community what it is this resolution does.
I just want to, I'm sorry, Councilmember, I think you just misspoke. It's not all utility rates, it's electric utility
I'm
rates.
sorry.
Yeah, it's just so we
Thank you.
Yes.
don't.
Right, so what Mayor and members of the council, what Councilwoman DeLucy is referring to is last week Councilmember Huff had drafted a resolution really based on the 2015 cost of service study for Independence Power and Light, again the Sovol study I mentioned a moment ago. That report did a number of things, but primarily was looking to bring equity back to all three of our common rate classes, industrial, commercial, and residential. That particular study would have presumably given specific rate reductions to the industrial and commercial class. We know that the Burns and Mac study that's coming is looking at how to improve all of our rate classes, consolidate structures, look for savings in operations through efficiency and other cost-cutting measures. I think in discussing this with Councilmember Huff, after the conversation with the PUAB, after some of the feedback we got from the residents, we really have the ability through some of our diligence the last 2 years, attrition, vacancies that we've captured, things like that, to provide an immediate rate reduction across all utility classes. So not specific to the 2015 study, which was focused on industrial and commercial, but really across all of our classes. So with some of that information, some of the cost analysis that we were able to do, in our conversations with Councilmember Huff, we went back and modified the proposal that's before the council tonight. So again, just to summarize that real quick, the original proposal really was starting by looking at industrial and commercial and how to grow business in the city. This is treating all classes the same and providing everybody with the immediate across the board 2% reduction.
And there's no other recommendations within that Sovol study that is being implemented with this. Is that correct?
That is correct, and the reasoning for that is many of the assumptions that were made in 2015, 3 years later, the industry has just changed so much. The own Independence Power and Light, the numbers are so different. So we're really waiting on the benefit of the Burns and McDonald study to provide current analysis of the current financial position but we know based on what we've done the last 2 years, we have the ability to do this $3 million reduction today and then see what comes forward with the report here in a couple of weeks and improve upon the recommendations that are now 3 years old.
Thank you.
I have a question. When, if this were to be approved this evening, when would that reduction go into effect? When would customers start seeing that reduction on their bills?
I will be honest with the council, one of the faults of our current system is 21 different rate classes. And you might remember the Solvable study recommended going down to 5. We're working with the Burns and McDonald team right now to see if we can get that lower. There will be some human effort that needs to go into implementing this across the 21 classes. We're hopeful that in no more than 30 to 60 days, and I want to make sure I overpromise or underpromise on that, but we'll hopefully try to beat that timeline.
And does this have any measurable effect on our bond rating by doing this reduction?
We've been in close contact with our bond counsel for many months now. Many of the big initiatives the council are looking at, energy master plan, efforts like that are going to require a close assessment of our bonding capacity and may require us to issue some debt to pull those off. We are able to match 1-to-1 again the $3 million that we've saved through these elimination of vacant positions. So because we're doing that and showing the overheads coming down, our ledger's balanced, and we feel pretty confident that this won't have an adverse impact on the credit rating.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
So I have a couple comments, and I think all of us would agree that we're all in favor of reducing rates. I want to reduce rates. My only two concerns, first of all, is that this might be a little premature, since within a month we should have the other study. So the other study may say we need to reduce it by 3%, or it may say 1%, or we may need to leave it the same. And so I would hate for us to pass it and have to raise rates back up 2% if that's what the Burns and Mack study says. So that's one concern. The other concern has to do with the general fund and how we are funding our firefighters and our police. Most people don't understand, but there's a separate fund, the general fund, which is funded by the 3 separate enterprise funds. IPL is one of those, water, and WPC. So those 3 enterprise funds only pay money out of those funds into the general fund by taxes. Payment in lieu of taxes is called, pilots. And when we reduce the income to IPL, that will be reducing the pilots or the taxes paid by IPL into the general fund to fund our firefighters and our police. So the estimate that I see is $270,000 that we're going to be reducing income to the general fund. Now we're only talking right now half a year because we're halfway through the budget. So that's about $135,000. So my question is, what are we going to have to cut? Because we've already set the budget. We're halfway through the budget year. Are we going to cut positions? Are we going to cut something else? So that's the question. If we pass this, what do we cut?
I guess I'd answer that by reminding the council that last year we finalized the budget, the July 1 fiscal year started, and our municipal court system, software system, decided not to work anymore, which really wasn't optional to not have one of those. That was a $325,000 expenditure that was totally unplanned, and we had to adapt around that. I would liken that to this similar situation. I mean, we didn't go into the year knowing we're going to have this opportunity in front of us, but I think we're all, can agree that we're grateful to have that opportunity before us. There's a number of mechanisms, Councilmember. I'll tell you, we estimate revenues as part of the budget, but then we monitor to see, how revenues ebb and flow. We can do, there's a number of different budgetary management things that we'll do, whether that's structuring when we choose to fill vacant positions or when we make certain capital expenditures. So the number, $135,000 is a lot of money. I don't want to minimize that, but it is a number I feel comfortable that my staff and I can manage around to have this opportunity. And really, I think with some of the feedback that we've heard through the Economic Development Council, some of the industrial users in our city, really want to make sure that we don't, step over dollars to get to dimes here. I think we have a chance to not only stabilize our customer base in the city, but hopefully even begin to attract new businesses that we've missed out on in the past. So I feel good about our opportunity to manage financially through the rest of the fiscal year and then adapt moving forward.
Thank you.
Councilmember DeLucia, do you want to make a motion?
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Either way, yeah.
But since 2015, we've been working on this, and it's come forth now, and this is not just a windfall. This is something that's been in. And with IPL, there's going to be a substantial check coming through legal procedures of, if I'm not mistaken, $7.5 million annually that we're going to make up on. But this was sought after as now, and it could be just the tip of the iceberg. But we're going to keep working on this. But this is wonderful, and I think everybody in the city deserves it.
Madam Mayor, I move for approval of 18809.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Council members Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Doherty,
Yes.
DeLucy.
Yes.
Robertson.
Yes.
Van Camp,
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
100% yes. Thank you.
Way to go, Karen.
I'm going to take 30 seconds while people walk out.
People are going to be like, they let her keep talking, they're awful people. Doesn't she sound awful? I know.
If I quit talking though, it's worse. Like when I keep talking, it gets a little bit better. Does it sound better right now?
Now it does.
I know.
Okay, I just want everyone to know it's not us making you talk.
Mayor Weir is like,
Say it again.
Mayor Weir is calling.
Yeah, good.
He left early. She just closed on a house today and she was painting. I called her and she was like, I come in.
I'm sorry, I don't think so, but what was your
You can call the roll.
How are we going to?
We'll go ahead and we'll figure it out.
Okay, this takes us to our public hearings for this evening.
I'm not understanding.
Our first public hearing is for rezoning for the application by Thomas Schroeder requesting a rezoning from R12 two-family residential to I1 industrial for the property located at 119 North Wilson Avenue. This is new information only. Mr. Scannell.
Yes, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Tom Scannell. I'm the Community Development Director. There's no new information to report on this case.
Are there any comments or questions from the council? Hearing none, this public hearing is closed. I'm going to have the Deputy City Councilor read the bill, and then if you would call the roll.
A public hearing for rezoning for the application by Thomas Schrader requesting a rezoning
Oh,
from,
Just read 18100
Oh,
underneath. Sorry, I know I caught you
all
off.
the way down to 18100,
Yeah, right
okay.
underneath there.
100, second reading, an ordinance amending the zoning district map as to tract of ground located at 119 North Wilson Avenue from District R12, two-family residential, to I1 industrial in Independence, Jackson County, Missouri.
Okay, second and final reading. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Council members Huff,
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Doherty.
Yes.
DeLucy.
Yes.
Robertson.
Yes.
Van Camp,
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes. Our next public hearing is for the amendment to the Unified Development Ordinance, Chapter 14 of the Independent City Code relating to the keeping of bees as an accessory use in Section 14-400-08-D and 14-400-12-C. This is a full public hearing. Mr. Scannell.
Yes, Mayor, members of the council, this is a UDO amendment that's making changes to our current bee requirements, which would permit beehives in all residential zoning districts except for the multifamily districts, that's R18 and R30. And it would establish minimum lot size with a provision that allows for the number of hives to increase as the lot size increases. The Planning Commission reviewed this UDO amendment and recommended approval as amended.
Okay, this is a full public hearing. Is there anybody wishing to speak in support of this bill? Anybody wishing to speak in opposition? Public hearing is closed. Colin?
18-101, second reading, an ordinance amending Chapter 14 of the Independent City Code pertaining to beekeeping by increasing the number of zoning districts where hives are allowed and also regulating the possible number of beehives on such properties.
Okay, second and final reading. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Doherty.
Yes.
Lucy.
Yes.
Robertson.
Yes.
Van Camp.
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes, ordinance passes. Our next public hearing is for the application by Ed Reese requesting a special use permit to operate a used vehicle sales business at 3114 South Weatherford Road. This is new information only. Mr. Scannell?
Yes, Mayor and members of the council, there's no new information to report on this case.
Is there any comments or questions from the council?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'll wait until you close the hearing.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. After we do the vote on this, I would have a comment about this in general, if that's okay.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Okay, Colin, could you please read the bill?
18-102, second reading, an ordinance approving a special use permit to operate a vehicle sales business at 3114 South Weatherford Road in Independence, Jackson County, Missouri.
Okay, this is the second and final reading. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Doherty.
Yes.
Lucy.
Yes.
Robertson.
Yes.
Van Camp.
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes. Councilman Perkins, you want to comment on this now, or you want to wait till councilman comments?
Let's do it now.
Okay.
Go with the flow right here.
Yep.
So,
Go ahead.
so my concern is with our used car lots that we have that are becoming numerous and numerous. So I guess my comment to my colleagues and also city staff to how do we get a good handle of what we have, what do we want to have in the future? I don't want to become known as the used car capital of Independence of Missouri, or used car capital of Independence of Missouri. I don't want to have that stigma. I think it's something that we need to take a strong look at for in the future, just so we can monitor that.
So, Mr. City Manager, why don't we put together a little report? I mean, this is why these come to us as special use permits, because they're outside of the zoning requirements.
Correct.
So, you know, we can take a look at kind of our inventory, what we have, what our new comprehensive development plan envisions regarding this. I mean, they're somewhat on a case-by-case basis.
I understand.
So I know that's been suggested in the past to maybe, you know, put a limit or put a moratorium. And, you know, I would say, in general, I'm not necessarily in favor of that. I think they, you know, that they are appropriate in some cases and not appropriate in others.
Agreed.
But we can get some more data about how many we have, where they are, what they contribute to our overall economy, which is what we're interested in, and what the comprehensive plan and the code allow for now. Yes, Councilman?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I kind of agree with Councilman Perkins, but you know something? There could be a lot worse things. We could have a discount smoke and liquor shop, tattoo shop, pawn shop, which really doesn't fit well with anything. But this is really free enterprise. No one would open or invest in this if they didn't sell cars. So obviously the free enterprise system here works. There's a demand for this. They fill this demand. And you know, we do have a reputation. If you want to buy a car, new, used, or otherwise, you come to Independence because we've got a really great selection in such a small area. So really, it may be kind of a claim to fame. I recently zoned one up in my area that we had a building that the way the building said it had no retail value, didn't have a frontage to facing the street, and really one of the very few people even looked at was a car lot. So we've got a new car lot. So I think, you know, the free enterprise systems kind of takes over here. If it doesn't work, They go out of business and they leave. If it works, they buy utilities from us, they pay taxes, and they're not an empty space. So I kind of like the free enterprise system working here on this one, but thank you.
Okay. Yes, Councilman?
This is a perfect example as a exception to the rule. I too am concerned, and but I think that by placing a moratorium instead of taking it on the individual basis, this is how we may have lost this. This individual is for this city and has done several repairs on different buildings, and this is off the driven path. This is back behind off 31st Street, and this is indoor high quality cars, not your on the street visuals. This individual who has done so much for the city asked that he have this, and it's way back behind the tracks, behind down there, and not that we shouldn't be aware, as was brought out by Councilman Perkins, but I think if you cap something, then you have to then make the exception. You know, I think that we can do it on a personal one-to-one basis and keep this city alive with, as Councilman Doherty has brought out, the aspect of free enterprise and still curb what is the concern here of the council. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I wasn't necessarily thinking of a moratorium, although that could be on the table. But I think we need to take a strong look at our image. I was for this because it was off the beaten path, and I think this is a good product here. But I think as more and more time goes by, as these come before us and they are more on the beaten path, I think we need to be concerned of what the overall image is. And there is a free market in play there, but also there's a responsibility that we have to what our image is going to look like in the future. So with that.
Okay, thank you. Our next public hearing is an application by Dennis and Peng Enterprises LLC for a restaurant, bar, malt liquor and light wine and Sunday sales license for Thai Kitchen at 19321 East US Highway 40, Unit A. This is a full public hearing. Mr. Scannell.
Yes, Mayor, members of the council, this is a liquor license for Thai Kitchen. It's located in the Cracker Neck Plaza Shopping Center at the southwest corner of Little Blue Parkway and 40 Highway. As this application is to sell beer and light wine 7 days a week. This application meets all of the liquor requirements and has been reviewed by the appropriate city staff. And that concludes the presentation.
Okay, this is a full public hearing. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Public hearing is closed. Colin? Any comments or questions from the council? Okay, go ahead. You can read the bill.
Council action is requested on the application received from Dennis and Peng Enterprises LLC for a restaurant, bar, malt liquor, and light wine and Sunday sales license for Thai Kitchen at 19321 East US Highway 40, Unit A. This application requires a 2/3 majority vote for approval due to residential property being located within 300 feet of the establishment.
Okay, Madam City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmembers Huff.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Doherty.
Yes.
DeLucy. Yes. Robertson.
Yes.
It's contagious.
Say it is.
Robertson.
Yes.
Van Camp.
Who?
Van Camp.
Who? No, yes.
Mayor Weir.
Nice. Yes. Yes. The ordinance passes. Okay, this takes us to our second readings.
Ordinance 18097, second reading. An ordinance authorizing a contract with VF Anderson Builders LLC in the amount of $712,100 for the installation of pipe and water main on 23rd Street from Hayden Street to west of Trail Ridge, and authorizing future minor change orders not to exceed $71,210 and/or time extensions.
Okay, this is the second and final reading. Are there any comments or questions on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Doherty.
Yes.
DeLucy.
Yes.
Robertson.
Yes.
Van Camp.
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes, ordinance passes.
Ordinance 18098, second reading, an ordinance authorizing and directing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Ararat Shriners to purchase the former water department building.
Okay, this second and final reading. Is there any discussion on this bill? Councilman Doherty?
Thank you. If you didn't know, we had the Shrine Circus this week at the Silverstein Arena. It was really nice. What the Shriners do, they maintain hospitals for crippled and burned children, much like the St. Jude Hospital. There's no charge to the families for this. They do this all out of donations. I'm proud to be a Shriner, and will pass and abstain on this particular vote.
Okay, is there any other discussion on this bill?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Councilman Perkins.
I would urge support. I think this is going to be a great one, get it off our city's books, and have a great use for this building that help bring something new and different to the city.
Very good. Madam City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmembers Huff.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Doherty.
Abstain.
DeLucy.
Yes.
Robertson.
Yes.
Van Camp.
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes, ordinance passes.
Ordinance 18099, second reading, an ordinance amending Chapter 3 of the Independent City Code, establishing standards for the keeping of beehives in the city limits.
This is the second and final reading. Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Doherty.
Yes.
DeLucy.
Yes.
Robertson.
Yes.
Van Camp.
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes, ordinance passes.
Ordinance 18103, second reading, an ordinance approving the final plat of Stone Canyon second plat in Independence, Jackson County, Missouri.
Okay, second and final reading. Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Doherty.
Yes.
DeLucy.
Yes.
Robertson.
Yes.
Van Camp.
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes, ordinance passes.
Ordinance 18-104, second reading, an ordinance authorizing and directing the city manager to execute a development agreement with D&D Residential Development, LLC.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Doherty.
Yes.
DeLucy.
Yes.
Robertson.
Yes.
Van Camp.
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes, ordinance passes.
Ordinance 18105, second reading, an ordinance vacating a portion of the sanitary sewer easement near Little Blue Parkway and East 42nd Street South.
Your pages are
Second
all
and
in
final
order.
reading.
Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Doherty.
Yes.
DeLucy.
Yes.
Robertson.
Yes.
Van Camp.
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes, ordinance passes.
Ordinance 18106, second reading, an ordinance authorizing the annual contract with Mid-America Regional Council for a maximum reimbursement of $59,750 in grant funding for the city's Senior Adult Nutrition Site Program for fiscal year 2018 to 2019, making the necessary appropriations, authorizing future change orders for additional funding and/or time extensions, authorizing certain future appropriations. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Doherty.
Yes.
DeLucy.
Yes.
Robertson.
Yes.
Van Camp.
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes, ordinance passes.
Ordinance 18-107, second reading, an ordinance amending section 3.01.007 of the Independence City Code to align the city code with state statute regarding holding times for impounded animals. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Doherty.
Yes.
DeLucy.
Yes.
Robertson.
Yes.
Van Camp.
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes, ordinance passes.
Ordinance 18-108, second reading, an ordinance amending section 3.03.009 of the Independence City Code requiring dogs classified as vicious to be microchipped and sterilized before being removed from the city. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Doherty.
Yes.
DeLucy.
Yes.
Robertson.
Yes.
Van Camp.
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes, ordinance passes.
Ordinance 18-109, second reading, an ordinance amending various sections of Article 7 Electrical Code of Chapter 4 of the Independence City Code and adopting the 2017 edition of the National Electrical Code. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Doherty.
Yes.
DeLucy.
Yes.
Robertson.
Yes.
Van Camp.
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes, ordinance passes. This takes us to our first readings. They will have their first reading this evening and their second reading on Monday, December 3rd for final consideration.
18-110, first reading, an ordinance finding, determining, and declaring the necessity of acquiring general utility easements for the 10520 U.S. Highway 40 Drainage Improvement Project, authorizing the negotiation and eminent domain proceedings if necessary, approving the plans and specifications for the project, authorizing the use of experts as needed, authorizing and directing the execution of documents and the payment of funds to property owners or others holding property rights in conjunction with the project. First reading 18-111, an ordinance amending Article 9 Swimming Pool Code of Chapter 4 of the Independent City Code and adopting the 2018 edition of the International Building Code and 2018 edition of the International Residential Code and making other necessary revisions.
Mayor Ware.
Sorry. Yes, Councilman.
Sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to make a comment because I had a couple questions on the swimming pool code. I noticed that among these codes that we're talking about, this one in particular has no penalty listed, and so we can have codes, but if there's no enforcement or no penalty, sometimes they don't work. So I wondered if we could take a look at that before the final reading in a couple weeks. The second thing I wanted to mention was I've noticed in going to some of the homeowners associations where there's a lot of curb deterioration, those that have the worst, and this is just an empirical observation, the curbs that have the worst deterioration are those that are right outside and downstream on the curb from where they drain the pool. And I think if there's active chlorine in that water, we're going to see a lot more concrete deterioration from curbs, maybe even sidewalks. So as we look at that in the future, I would like us to maybe research that and see if there's a reason, because it seems like there's a link, and if there is, that needs to go in the code as well. Thanks.
I think
So
those are both good
penalty.
points. We'll look at those in the next 2 weeks.
Thanks.
Ready?
Yes.
18-112, first reading, an ordinance amending Article 5 Building Code of Chapter 4 of the Independent City Code and adopting the 2018 edition of the International Building Code and making other necessary revisions. 18-113, first reading, an ordinance amending Article 12 Existing Building Code of Chapter 4 of the Independent City Code and adopting the 2018 edition of the International Existing Building Code and making other necessary revisions. 18-114, first reading, an ordinance amending Chapter 9 Fire Code of the Independent City Code and adopting the 2018 edition of the International Fire Code and removing the 2012 edition of the Life Safety Code and making other necessary revisions. 18-115, first reading, an ordinance amending Article 14, Fuel Gas Code of Chapter 4 of the Independent City Code and adopting the 2018 edition of the International Fuel Gas Code and making other necessary revisions. 18-116, first reading, an ordinance amending Article 6, Mechanical Code of Chapter 4 of the Independent City Code and adopting the 2018 edition of the International Mechanical Code and making other necessary revisions. 18-117, first reading, an ordinance amending Article 4, Plumbing Code of Chapter 4 of the Independent City Code and adopting the 2018 edition of the International Plumbing Code and making other necessary revisions. 18-118, first reading, an ordinance amending Article 13, Residential Code of Chapter 4 of the Independent City Code and adopting the 2018 edition of the International Residential Code and making other necessary revisions. 18-119, first reading, an ordinance adding Article 20, Fireworks, to Chapter 5 of the Independent City Code and making other necessary revisions. 18-120, first reading, an ordinance declaring the vacant lots at 17101 East Truman Road and 525 South Pleasant Street as surplus property, and authorizing the disposition of said property in accordance with Chapter 20 of the City Code. 18-510, first reading. An ordinance authorizing and directing the city manager to execute a certain public use license agreement and declaration of blight agreement between said city and the Nolan Road Community Improvement District to allow for the installation of various public improvements as may be approved by the city from time to time on or within the public right-of-way along the Nolan Road corridor and declaring an emergency. 18-510, second reading, an ordinance authorizing and directing the city manager to execute a certain public use license agreement and declaration of blight agreement between said city and the Nolan Road Community Improvement District to allow for the installation of various public improvements as may be approved by the city from time to time on or within the public right-of-way along the Nolan Road corridor and declaring an emergency. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins, Doherty,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Robertson,
Yes.
Van Camp,
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes, ordinance passes. This takes us to citizens' request. Our first is from Jason White, who requests to speak to the council regarding electric rates. Mr. White.
Good evening. My name is Jason White. I live at 1024 South Forest. I'm part of a small group here in town known as Indie Energy, and we have a website and do forums and sort of try to help educate folks on energy issues. And the issue of our high electric rates has been around for quite some time now. I think we've been talking about it for 5 or 6 years. And frankly, giving everybody a 2% cut is something you probably got 117,000 people in town that are supportive of that. And you don't get everybody on board with something very often. We appreciate the flexibility of Mr. Huff to change from draft number 1 that was so tightly tied to the 2015 study. I think we all recognize it had some concerns. We'd like to emphasize that customer service charge. Bad news, AARP opposed that, and we appreciate your all evolving this through the time. We think the PUAB did a good job in bringing those issues up in a proper forum for good conversation to let the thing evolve. We appreciate the comments that as we look at other rate studies, we got to watch because there's a 9.08% tax pilots. That's police officers and cops. So we got to think ahead. This came up and moved really fast, and it's a good holiday present for everybody. You got the 2% because you had savings. You had savings because we shut down and did away with Missouri Valley. You don't have the costs of that, the small amount of labor attached to it. You shifted Blue Valley from burning coal to natural gas. You had significant savings in employees there, and those have accumulated. And now you all get to reap the benefits by providing to the citizens something that's needed, a well-deserved cut on their electric rates. But as you look down the road, right now, the Association of Public Utility Groups would say we should be a 14% difference between our neighboring commercially run electric rates. We're not there yet. You can't jump there as easily as you did with the 2%. So as you move into that, you got to watch the bond issues and the general fund issues. They're complicated, and we respect that. But you do have some things on the table. And so we thought this was a neat opportunity to remind you that AMI is going to save a lot of money downstream. $15 million, I think, if my memory serves me right. So let's get that on the table so you can then provide and have 50 people here cheering out your names. The other bigger one is going to be closing down Blue Valley. You had a general resolution tonight. How about a resolution of intent that we're going to close down Blue Valley, work on a transition plan for those employees? You've got the bid out already to find that capacity, and that's the third thing I want to mention. You don't have to just go out and buy electricity with that RFP. You need to get capacity, and there's a variety of ways to look at that. So be creative, and you've got opportunity to save some more dollars and make folks happy. Congratulations. You did something tonight. You got, I think, 117,000 people happy with.
120.
120,000? I stand corrected. It's nice to have happier people in my neighborhood. Thank you for doing what you did tonight.
Thank you, Mr. White. Our next speaker is Lucy Young, who requests to speak to the council regarding thanking the council and mayor on bill number 18809. Mrs. White, or
And-
Mrs. Young, excuse me.
And the chiefs are coming, so we know how to make it brief.
Yep.
I will answer some of those questions that he caused earlier, but because the chiefs are playing, I'll save that for another date. Thank you. You've given us the first decrease in decades. If you don't think it makes a difference, I know a lot of people said, it's only 2%, but if you'd have given them a 2% increase, everybody said, that's too much. Well, this is a great start. It's because Independence for All is working. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for the direction that you people are taking us. We, when I was on the council, built the sub-basement. You are building the house. Now together, let's raise the roof. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom Mountain requests to speak to the council regarding the Honeywell contract. Mr. Mountain.
Well, Mayor Weir and council members, I really appreciate this opportunity to share with you. I mean it, I have high regard and respect for the kind of time and attention that you give to your responsibilities. I've been thinking about what I'm going to say, and it's been taking me hours and in preparation, so I really respect that the effort that you give is tremendous. You know much more than I do about the advanced meter reading instructor system that you're considering. But I want to share a concern that comes for me about the well-being of the city and its people and the earth. And that's because of the potential that you'll be entering into a contract with Honeywell. I'd like to just share with you, you probably know all this information, but I'd just like to bring it back to your attention if you do not know. And you can get this information basically from NBC Action News and different articles that their reporters have made regarding Honeywell's operation of the parts for the nuclear weapons that is in Kansas City. They produce 85% of the non-nuclear parts of the nuclear weapons. And another analogy to that I just read about today, it's like they produce the gun and the other part, the nuclear warhead, is produced elsewhere. What kind of record do they have left behind in terms of their operation of the plant known as the Bannister Federal Complex at Bannister Road? I will, just as I've said, share a few pieces of information that can be well documented. First off, the company left behind over 900 toxic elements that are in the process of being cleaned up. If I was to give you a stroll or there's 19 pages. Some of those was uranium, which wasn't supposed to be on the site, plutonium, which wasn't supposed to be on the site, beryllium, which wasn't supposed to be on the site, all hazardous to the to persons and contributing to their disease. The Department of Labor has acknowledged over 900, and I believe now I could document closer to 2,000 toxic elements that have been left on that site. And in perpetuity, it'll always be unsafe for humans. So what arrangements would be made with Honeywell that they will provide and not cover up any hazardous materials or equipment or processes, because they have documented, according to news reports, misleading both the government and the welfare of the health of employees. Hundreds of employees have been misled by the government regarding their own health situation because of the elements that they were exposed to at the Bannister Road plant. For the last 4 or 5 years, I and members of my family and friends of my church, we go to a memorial at the new plant that produces nuclear weapons. And there, each Memorial Weekend, we remember the names of 154 people. We remember their names, we remember their causes of death, and we remember their age. And the reason we want to remember their age is because many of them died too young.
1 minute, Mr. Montagne. 1 minute.
1 minute? Mm-hmm. So, as you consider your consideration of a contract with Honeywell, I hope that you will research and be prepared in making sure that Honeywell does not do things that will jeopardize the wealth and well-being of our people and our community, and to make sure that we don't have non-disclosure procedures that they will use to protect what they did not do for their employees. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. Sharon Hanna has requested to speak to the council regarding the Honeywell contract. Are you? Okay, to withdraw. I saw you here, so I just wanted to make sure that was still the case. Thank you very much. Okay, this takes us to council member comments. I'll start on my left with Councilman Van Camp.
Again?
Well, let's start over here. Councilman Doherty.
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Councilman Perkins.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Councilman Huff.
I'll make it short because that Chiefs game, but I do appreciate all your support up here. And Pro Tim down there on the end helped me through this quite a bit. But my special thanks goes to City Manager and Mark Randall. They worked their tails on this. I asked for the moon. I didn't quite get there, but they definitely worked their tails off to help this get through, and I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Councilmember DeLucy.
Nothing.
Councilman Robertson.
Just wanted to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Yes. Councilman Van Camp.
Hoorah!
There you go.
Jesus.
I will make it quick. I do want to mention on Blue, tonight was a big night, and I think we all recognize that, but as we all know, there's lots of decisions ahead. I want everybody to be assured the city manager has laid out a very detailed plan about how we are going to proceed with decision making regarding the Blue Valley plant. So there is a timeline that is in place, and so we will be moving along in that decision making as well. We still do have some studies that we are waiting for the results of, as well as our financial management plan aspects of that. So there's much more to come, but rest assured that we do have a path forward and very organized and methodical way of making those decisions that the timeline has been laid out for that. Since we won't be together again for a couple of weeks, a few things that are coming up. Tomorrow is kind of a neat event. The Capitol Christmas tree will be making its way through Independence. It's 2 weeks that it's following the Oregon Trail this year, so we'll be making a brief stop here about 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, so that will be kind of a neat event. We do have on November 30th, we will be doing the mayor's holiday lighting over here at Hiram Young Park, and that will also be the night of the living windows up on the Independence Square. If you were a part of that last year, you know what an incredibly magical evening it was, and this year is shaping up to be even greater. I think we have 40 businesses that are participating in the living windows. It's really something. If you weren't able to come last year, make it a point. And then we will have on Saturday the Mayor's Christmas Carnival. That's a free event for families over at the Sermon Center on Saturday morning. Come and have your picture taken with Santa. There's lots of games and prizes and contests for the children. And then on Sunday is, on the 2nd, is the Mayor's Christmas Concert at the Community of Christ Auditorium. All of the 4th graders from independent school districts come and participate and sing holiday songs again, free and open to the public. So I encourage people to take advantage of those upcoming events. Mr. City Manager, anything else this evening?
Just very quickly, earlier this year, I met with a major industrial manufacturer in our city who had moved to the Independence area about 30 years ago because they were fed up with the cost of doing business in Kansas City, but they were very frustrated by their electric utility rate here in Independence. So I asked them to hang with us while the council was deliberating some very meaty issues in 2018, and wanted to thank the council for their support of this issue tonight, and know that we've got some awesome opportunities in front of us here in 2019. So thank you again.
Okay, we are adjourned.